In the tropical shallows of northern Australia and across parts of the Indo-Pacific, the sea often presents itself in its most inviting form. The water is warm, clear, and deceptively calm, stretching out in gradients of pale turquoise and soft blue that reveal the sandy bottom beneath. Sunlight penetrates easily here, illuminating ripples in the substrate and the slow drift of suspended particles. It is an environment that encourages entry. Visibility suggests safety. The absence of waves or murky depth implies control. Fish move in loose formations. Small rays leave faint trails across the sand, and the shoreline feels less like a boundary and more like an open invitation. Yet this clarity, this visual accessibility, conceals one of the most efficient and unforgiving biological systems in the ocean. Moving through this space, nearly indistinguishable from the water itself, is the box jellyfish. Its body is a transparent cube, its tissues so refined in their refractive properties that they bend light rather than interrupt it, allowing the animal to remain almost perfectly concealed in the very environment it occupies. From each corner of the bell extend trailing tentacles, sometimes dozens, each one capable of stretching several meters behind the animal as it drifts or actively swims. Unlike many other jellyfish, which rely largely on passive movement with currents, box jellyfish possess a degree of directional control. They can pulse their bell with intention, navigate toward prey, and even avoid obstacles using a surprisingly complex set of light-sensitive organs clustered around their body. In ecological terms, they are not drifting hazards. They are active participants in the shallow water food web, predators that operate in a space where visibility should, in theory, expose them. The contradiction lies in how their bodies interact with light. The tissues of the bell and tentacles are composed in such a way that they scatter minimal light, rendering them nearly invisible against the bright, sunlit background. In clear, shallow water, where most threats are easily seen before contact, this transparency becomes a form of concealment that bypasses the primary defense system of many animals: vision. Small fish, shrimp, and other organisms moving through these waters do not perceive the tentacles until contact has already occurred. Even larger animals, including humans, can enter the same space without registering the presence of the jellyfish. The water appears empty, but it is not. It contains structures that the eye struggles to resolve, especially when motion is slow and contrast is low. Contact with a box jellyfish is not a singular event, but a cascade of microscopic interactions that occur almost instantaneously. Each tentacle is lined with thousands upon thousands of specialized cells known as nematocysts. These are not passive structures. They are mechanical and chemical devices primed to respond to touch and certain chemical cues. When triggered, each nematocyst fires a coiled, harpoon-like thread with explosive speed, penetrating the surface of the target and delivering venom directly into the tissue. This discharge happens on a scale of microseconds, faster than conscious reaction, and it occurs across every point of contact simultaneously. A single brush against a tentacle is not a single sting. It is the activation of a dense field of microscopic injectors, all operating in unison. The venom delivered through these nematocysts is a complex mixture of proteins and toxins that act on multiple systems within the body. In species such as Chironex fleckeri, often cited as one of the most potent representatives of this group, the venom has both dermatotoxic and cardiotoxic properties. At the site of contact, it disrupts cell membranes, leading to immediate tissue damage and intense pain. Simultaneously, components of the venom can interfere with the function of the heart and other vital systems. From an evolutionary perspective, This dual action is highly effective for subduing prey quickly and deterring potential predators. Small fish that encounter the tentacles can be immobilized almost instantly, their muscular and neural systems overwhelmed before escape is possible. For a human entering this environment, the sequence of events unfolds with a speed that leaves little room for interpretation. The first sensation is often a sudden searing pain at the point of contact, described in many cases as unlike any other form of injury encountered in the ocean. This is not a gradual burn or a localized sting. It is immediate and overwhelming, spreading along the path where the tentacle has brushed against the skin. The pattern of the contact can sometimes be traced visually, as the affected area develops distinctive linear marks corresponding to the tentacle's path. These marks are not superficial. They represent zones where thousands of nematocysts have fired, each contributing to the overall load of venom delivered into the body. The intensity of this initial pain has consequences beyond the direct physiological effects of the venom. It triggers a rapid stress response, elevating heart rate and respiration, and in many cases inducing panic. In a controlled environment, such a response might be manageable. In open water, where stability depends on coordinated movement and controlled breathing, it becomes a critical risk factor. The instinctive reaction to pain, sudden movement, gasping, loss of rhythm, can destabilize a person within seconds. The body, already under the influence of venom that may be affecting cardiovascular function, is now also dealing with the mechanical challenge of staying afloat while experiencing acute distress. As the venom continues to act, additional systems begin to fail in sequence. The skin and underlying tissues at the contact site sustain damage, but more importantly, the cardiovascular system can become compromised. In severe envenomations, toxins interfere with the electrical activity of the heart, potentially leading to arrhythmias or cardiac arrest. This does not always occur, but the possibility introduces a layer of unpredictability to every encounter. Even in less extreme cases, the combination of pain, shock, and systemic effects can lead to a rapid decline in physical capability. Muscles may weaken, coordination deteriorates, and the ability to maintain effective swimming or even basic flotation becomes compromised. The environment amplifies these effects. Shallow, clear water may appear safe, but it offers little support when the body begins to fail. There are no immediate structures to hold onto, no barriers to slow movement, and often no indication to others that something has gone wrong until the situation has already escalated. The same clarity that made the water inviting now becomes irrelevant, as the threat was never visible to begin with. In ecological terms, this is a system where the predator does not need to chase or pursue. It positions itself within a high-traffic zone, relies on near invisibility, and allows contact to initiate the interaction. The notion that panic can be as dangerous as the venom itself is not an exaggeration, but a reflection of how multiple risk factors converge. Pain disrupts breathing patterns, leading to rapid, shallow breaths or involuntary inhalation of water. Shock can reduce blood pressure and impair cognitive function, making it difficult to make decisions or signal for help. The physical act of swimming requires coordinated muscle activity and oxygen delivery, both of which can be compromised under envenomation. In this context, drowning becomes a secondary but equally immediate threat, not because the water is inherently dangerous, but because the body's ability to function within it is being rapidly undermined. The timeline of these events compresses the margin for response. Seconds matter, not as a dramatic device, but as a practical constraint. The initial contact triggers the discharge of nematocysts almost instantly. pain follows within moments, and systemic effects can begin to develop shortly thereafter. There is no extended window in which to analyze the situation or gradually adapt. The body is forced into a state of crisis with minimal warning, and the outcome depends heavily on what happens in that first minute. Maintaining airway control, avoiding panic-driven movements, and reaching support or assistance become the defining factors that determine whether the situation stabilizes or deteriorates further. From an ecological and evolutionary standpoint, the efficiency of this system is remarkable. The box jellyfish does not expend energy in prolonged chases or complex hunting strategies. It relies on a combination of transparency, strategic placement in shallow waters where prey is abundant, and a venom delivery system that ensures immediate effectiveness upon contact. Its sensory capabilities, including the ability to detect light and possibly navigate around obstacles, allow it to maintain position within productive feeding zones. The result is a predator that integrates seamlessly into its environment, leveraging both physical and chemical adaptations to maximize success. There is a subtle irony in how this animal fits into the broader perception of the ocean. Clear water is often equated with safety, a place where threats can be seen and avoided. Murky or deep water, by contrast, is where danger is typically imagined to reside. The box jellyfish inverts this expectation. It occupies the most visible part of the environment while remaining unseen, and it transforms a space associated with leisure and exploration into one where contact can have immediate and severe consequences. It does not rely on intimidation or display. Its effectiveness lies in the absence of those signals. The final understanding that emerges from this interaction is not centered on confrontation, but on response. There is no practical way to fight a box jellyfish once contact has occurred. The mechanisms involved operate at a scale and speed that render reactive measures ineffective in the moment of contact. What remains is the capacity to endure the initial phase, to manage the body's response under extreme conditions, and to minimize additional exposure. Survival in this context is not about overpowering the threat, but about navigating the first minute with enough control to prevent the situation from escalating beyond recovery. In waters that appear calm, clear, and entirely benign, the presence of the box jellyfish introduces a form of risk that is both elegant and unforgiving. It is a system built on invisibility, instantaneous action, and the exploitation of natural human assumptions about safety. The lesson it imposes is precise. The most beautiful water can conceal the most efficient forms of harm, and when contact occurs, the outcome is decided not by strength or resistance, but by how well the body withstands the first critical moments of failure. In the tidal margins where coral reefs taper into sand and broken rock, the landscape appears static at first glance, as though the sea has paused mid-motion and left its fragments scattered across a shallow canvas. Sunlight penetrates clean water and settles onto a textured floor of coral rubble, algae-coated stones, and shifting patches of fine sediment. Small currents rearrange grains of sand in delicate ripples, and tiny fish hover just above the substrate, adjusting their position with subtle flicks of their fins. It is a space that rewards visual scanning, where movement typically reveals life and stillness suggests absence. Yet, within this quiet geometry of stone and sand lies a contradiction, an organism that has evolved not to be seen, not even as an animal, but as part of the landscape itself. Embedded within this environment is the stonefish, an animal whose entire survival strategy is built on the elimination of recognizable form. Its body is thick, irregular, and textured in a way that mimics the surrounding substrate with unsettling precision. The skin is mottled in tones of brown, grey, and muted green, broken by ridges and protrusions that resemble encrusting algae or coral growth. Over time, real algae and microorganisms can colonize its surface, further blurring the boundary between organism and environment. Unlike predators that rely on speed or concealment through shadow, the stonefish commits fully to stillness. It does not merely hide among rocks. It becomes indistinguishable from them. This camouflage is not passive in the sense of being a simple visual trick. It is an evolved integration into a specific ecological niche where recognition itself is the primary threat. Many reef predators and prey rely on pattern detection, identifying eyes, outlines, or movement that signals life. The stonefish removes these cues. Its eyes are small and positioned in a way that minimizes contrast with the rest of the body, and its overall shape lacks the symmetry or clear boundaries that would trigger attention. Even experienced observers can struggle to distinguish it from the surrounding debris until they are almost directly above it. In an environment where stepping, wading, or placing a hand on the substrate is a common interaction, this level of concealment transforms the animal into a passive but highly effective trap. The defining interaction with a stonefish does not begin with pursuit, it begins with pressure. A foot settles onto what appears to be a stable surface, or a hand presses down to maintain balance in shallow water. The contact is firm, deliberate, and entirely unguarded, because nothing in the visual field has suggested the presence of a living organism. Beneath that pressure, the stonefish's defensive system is activated. Along its dorsal surface runs a series of robust spines, each connected to venom glands at their base. These spines are not actively thrust outward in an attack. Instead, they are positioned to respond to compression. When sufficient force is applied from above, the spines are driven upward into the source of that pressure, penetrating the skin and delivering venom in the same motion. This mechanism is fundamentally different from the strike of a snake or the bite of a predatory fish. It does not require timing, aim, or pursuit. It relies entirely on the behavior of the other organism. The stonefish remains still, conserving energy and maintaining its camouflage, while the environment itself delivers contact to it. In evolutionary terms, this is an efficient solution to the problem of defense for a slow-moving animal. By coupling its venom delivery system to external pressure, it ensures that any organism large enough to threaten it, whether predator or accidental intruder, triggers the response automatically. There is no need to interpret intent. Contact is sufficient. The venom introduced through these spines is among the most potent produced by fish, a complex mixture of proteins that affect multiple physiological systems. While the immediate sensation is often described as intensely painful, focusing solely on pain misses the broader impact of the toxin. The venom can interfere with cardiovascular function, disrupt normal muscle activity, and induce systemic shock. From the perspective of the stonefish, this combination serves to deter predation and neutralize threats quickly. For the organism on the receiving end, particularly a human in shallow water, the effects extend beyond the initial injury. The first moments after envenomation are dominated by a rapid escalation of sensory input. Pain radiates from the site of penetration, often spreading along the affected limb, and the body responds with a surge of stress hormones. Heart rate increases, breathing becomes irregular, and the sudden intensity of the experience can overwhelm normal cognitive processing. In many natural threats, Pain serves as a clear signal to withdraw and reassess. Here, the signal is so strong that it can disrupt the very actions required for survival. Balance is lost, coordination falters, and the ability to remain upright or afloat becomes compromised. As the venom continues to act, its systemic effects begin to emerge. Blood pressure can fluctuate, sometimes dropping in response to the toxin, leading to dizziness or faintness. Muscles may weaken, not just at the site of injury, but more broadly, as the body's internal communication systems are affected. Nausea and disorientation can set in, further complicating the situation. In shallow water, where footing is already unstable and currents may be present, these changes create a cascade of risk. The individual is no longer dealing solely with a localized injury, but with a body that is gradually losing its ability to maintain equilibrium and respond effectively to the environment. The danger, therefore, is not confined to the venom itself. It emerges from the interaction between the venom's effects and the surrounding conditions. A person who collapses or loses coordination in shallow water faces an immediate risk of submersion, particularly if the environment includes uneven substrate, sudden drop-offs, or wave action. The initial instinct to react, to move quickly, to escape the source of pain, can lead to further instability, increasing the likelihood of falling or inhaling water. In this way, the stonefish does not need to pursue or restrain its target. The environment, combined with the physiological impact of the venom, creates a scenario in which the affected individual becomes vulnerable to secondary threats. From an ecological standpoint, the stonefish occupies a role that extends beyond defense. It is also an ambush predator, feeding on small fish and invertebrates that come within range. Its camouflage allows it to remain undetected until prey approaches closely, at which point it can open its mouth with remarkable speed, creating a suction force that draws the prey inside. This feeding mechanism is separate from its venom delivery system, illustrating a dual strategy, one for acquiring food and one for deterring threats. Both rely on proximity and the failure of other organisms to recognize the stonefish as an active participant in the environment. The broader reef system supports this strategy by providing a complex visual background. Coral fragments, algae, and sediment create a heterogeneous landscape where patterns are irregular and boundaries are unclear. Many organisms in this environment use camouflage to some degree, blending with their surroundings to avoid detection. The stonefish represents an extreme endpoint of this spectrum, where the distinction between organism and environment is almost entirely erased. It is not simply hidden, it is misidentified. This misidentification is the core of the trap, not in the sense of a constructed mechanism, but as an emergent property of evolutionary adaptation. There is a subtle lesson embedded in this interaction, one that extends beyond the specific biology of the stonefish. In many cases, humans are conditioned to associate danger with movement, size, or obvious threat displays. Animals that appear inert, small, or integrated into the background are often dismissed as harmless. The stonefish exploits this bias completely. It presents no clear signals of life, no movement to attract attention, and no behavior that suggests risk. Its presence is defined by absence, the absence of recognizable features, the absence of motion, and the absence of any cue that would prompt caution. This absence creates a false sense of security in environments where physical contact with the substrate is common. Wading through shallow water, stepping on rocks, or placing hands down for balance are routine actions, performed without detailed inspection of every surface. The stonefish does not need to alter these behaviors, it simply exists within them, positioned at the point where routine interaction becomes dangerous. The touch in this case is not an intentional act directed at the animal, but a byproduct of normal movement through the environment. It is a step, a shift of weight, a moment of contact that triggers a system designed to respond without delay. The final understanding that emerges from the presence of the stonefish is both specific and broadly applicable. The most lethal organisms in an ecosystem are not always those that assert themselves visibly. Some of the most effective strategies rely on invisibility, stillness, and the ability to blend so completely with the environment that they are no longer perceived as separate entities. In such cases, danger is not something that approaches or announces itself. It is something that exists beneath the threshold of recognition, waiting for ordinary behavior to intersect with an extraordinary adaptation. In the shallow, sunlit margins of the reef, where everything appears open and accessible, the stonefish redefines the relationship between observer and environment. It demonstrates that the absence of visible threat does not equate to safety, and that the most consequential interactions can occur without intention or awareness. The step that seems routine, the surface that appears stable, and the object that looks inert can, under the right conditions, reveal a system designed to punish contact with precision and efficiency. The lesson it imposes is not one of fear, but of perception. In ecosystems shaped by camouflage and stillness, the line between living organism and landscape is not always where it seems, and recognizing that boundary is often the difference between passing through an environment and becoming part of its consequences. In the lowland rainforests of northeastern Australia and New Guinea, the air settles heavy beneath a layered canopy where light filters through in broken, shifting fragments. The forest floor is a dense mosaic of fallen fruit, broadleaf plants, tangled roots, and damp soil that holds the memory of every passing animal. Movement here is rarely fast or open. It is negotiated through obstacles, guided by scent and sound as much as sight. Visibility is limited not by darkness, but by obstruction. You do not scan this environment in wide sweeps. You encounter it in segments, one step, one clearing, one sudden presence at a time. Within this system, there are animals that dominate through size, others through stealth, and a few that command attention simply by existing in a form that feels out of place in the modern world. The cassowary belongs to that last category. It does not resemble a typical bird in posture or behavior. Standing upright, often over 1.5 meters tall, with a dense black body, powerful legs, and a casque rising from the top of its head like a hardened crest, it carries the visual weight of something older than the forest itself. Its neck and head are exposed in brilliant, saturated colors, electric blues and deep reds that seem almost artificial against the muted greens and browns of the understory. It is both conspicuous and controlled, a presence that does not need to hide because it does not rely on concealment. This visual contrast is part of what draws attention. In a landscape where most animals are filtered through camouflage or shadow, the cassowary stands out. Its movements are deliberate, unhurried, and confident, as though the environment adjusts around it rather than the other way around. It walks through dense vegetation with minimal resistance, using its body mass and muscular legs to part foliage and step over obstacles that would slow or redirect smaller animals. For an observer unfamiliar with its behavior, this composure can be misread as calm or even indifference. It does not flee immediately at the sight of a human. It does not display overt aggression in the absence of a trigger. Instead, it maintains its space, continuing to forage or move with a level of confidence that invites interpretation. That interpretation is where the first mistake begins. The cassowary is often approached because it appears both striking and manageable, large enough to be impressive, but not immediately recognizable as dangerous in the way a large predator might be. Its bright coloration, particularly around the head and neck, functions in part as a visual signal within its own species, aiding in communication and recognition in a dense environment. For humans, however, these colors can have the opposite effect, drawing attention and curiosity. The bird's willingness to remain in place rather than retreating at a distance further reduces the perceived risk. It becomes something to observe more closely, to photograph, or in some cases, to approach. What is not immediately visible is the mechanical system that defines the cassowary's true capacity for harm. Its legs are not simply for locomotion, they are the primary tools of both defense and, when necessary, offense. Each foot is equipped with 3 toes, the innermost of which bears a long, dagger-like claw that can reach several centimeters in length. This claw is not decorative or incidental. It is structurally reinforced, sharply pointed, and positioned in a way that allows it to be driven forward with significant force during a kick. The musculature of the legs, developed for navigating dense terrain and supporting a large body, provides the power behind this movement. When a cassowary kicks, it does not do so in the manner of a grazing animal delivering a backward strike. It can leap slightly, bringing its body upward and forward, and drive both legs toward a target. The motion is fast, controlled, and direct, designed to create distance between the bird and a perceived threat. The claw acts as a penetrating element within this movement, capable of inflicting deep, slicing wounds. From an evolutionary perspective, this system is likely shaped by the need to defend against predators and to navigate territorial disputes with other cassowaries. In the confined, obstructed environment of the rainforest, where escape paths are limited and encounters can occur at close range, the ability to deliver a decisive space, creating strike, becomes a critical survival trait. The touch trap in this context is not about physical contact in the traditional sense. It is about distance. Specifically, the distance at which a cassowary transitions from tolerance to action. Unlike animals that signal escalation through a series of visible cues, the cassowary's threshold can be crossed quickly, especially when certain conditions are present. Feeding is one of the most significant factors. In areas where cassowaries have become accustomed to human-provided food, either intentionally or indirectly, they may associate humans with resources. This association alters their behavior, reducing their natural wariness and increasing the likelihood of close-range interactions. The bird approaches not out of curiosity alone, but with expectation. Dogs introduce another layer of complexity. To a cassowary, a dog can resemble a predator, fast-moving, unpredictable, and capable of triggering defensive behavior. When a dog is present, particularly if it is off-leash and active, the cassowary's response can escalate rapidly. The bird may attempt to defend itself or its territory, and in doing so, redirect its focus toward any nearby humans. The interaction becomes less about the initial trigger and more about the immediate need to create space and neutralize a perceived threat. Cornering is perhaps the most direct path to conflict. In dense forest, spatial awareness is limited, and an individual may inadvertently position themselves between a cassowary and its escape route. The bird, faced with an obstacle in its path, must choose between retreating through a less favorable route or confronting the obstruction. In such moments, the absence of clear escape options increases the likelihood of a defensive strike. Running too can act as a trigger. Sudden movement may be interpreted as either prey behavior or a threat response, prompting the cassowary to react in a way that prioritizes control of the immediate space. The speed at which these interactions unfold leaves little room for adjustment once the threshold is crossed. A step too close, a sudden movement, or an unexpected alignment of conditions can compress the timeline of the encounter into seconds. The bird's size and leg strength mean that it can cover short distances quickly, and its kick is delivered with a precision that reflects its reliance on this mechanism. There is no prolonged chase, no extended display. The action is immediate, designed to resolve the situation in a single, decisive movement. From a physiological perspective, the consequences of such a strike are not limited to surface injury. The force behind the kick, combined with the penetrating capability of the claw, can result in deep lacerations, damage to underlying tissues, and, in severe cases, injury to vital areas if the strike lands in a vulnerable position. The rainforest environment, with its uneven ground and dense obstacles, further complicates the aftermath. A person struck off balance may fall onto roots, rocks, or into thick vegetation, increasing the risk of secondary injury. The same environment that supports the cassowary's movement becomes a hazard for those unprepared to navigate it under duress. Yet it is important to situate this behavior within the broader ecological role of the cassowary. This is not an animal defined by aggression, but by its function within the forest. Cassowaries are among the most important seed dispersers in their ecosystem, consuming a wide variety of fruits and transporting seeds across large distances. Some plant species rely almost entirely on cassowaries for the dispersal of their seeds, particularly those with large fruits that smaller animals cannot process. The bird's digestive system is adapted to handle these seeds without destroying them, allowing them to pass through and be deposited in new locations, often with a ready supply of nutrients. This relationship between cassowary and forest creates a dynamic in which the bird's movement patterns influence the distribution and composition of plant life. It is a mobile link between trees, carrying the genetic material of one generation into the next across the landscape. In this sense, the cassowary is not just a resident of the forest, but an architect of its future structure. Its presence shapes the environment in ways that extend far beyond individual encounters. There is an irony in how this ecological importance intersects with human perception. The same animal that sustains the diversity of the rainforest through its feeding behavior is also one that can deliver catastrophic injury when its boundaries are crossed. Its beauty, the vivid colors, the striking form, the confident movement, is not an invitation, but a signal of presence. It marks a boundary in space, a zone within which the cassowary operates according to its own rules, shaped by evolutionary pressures rather than human expectation. Understanding this boundary requires a shift in perspective. It involves recognizing that not all visually striking or seemingly calm animals are approachable, and that confidence in an animal's behavior does not equate to tolerance of proximity. The cassowary does not need to display overt aggression to be dangerous. Its capacity for harm is embedded in its anatomy and its response to specific triggers, not in a constant state of hostility. In the layered, obstructed world of the rainforest, where encounters are often sudden and distances close, this distinction becomes critical. The step that brings an observer closer for a better view can also bring them within the range of a defensive system that operates without hesitation once activated. There is no gradual escalation that allows for correction. The moment is defined by proximity, and once that threshold is crossed, the response is immediate. The final lesson that emerges from the cassowary's presence is both simple and easily overlooked. Beauty, in this context, is not an invitation to engage, but a marker of something that exists independently of human curiosity. The colors that draw attention, the size that commands respect, and the composure that suggests calm are all part of a system that defines its own space. To misread that system is to step into a zone where reaction time is measured in fractions of a second, and where the consequences are determined not by intent, but by distance. In the shallow coastal margins of the Indo-Pacific, where coral rubble breaks into sand flats and tide pools trap fragments of the sea, the environment often feels deceptively quiet. Water lies clear and ankle-deep. Sunlight fractures across rippled sand, and small shells, algae, and broken coral pieces form a mosaic that rewards curiosity. It is the kind of place where people slow down, crouch, and reach. The ecosystem encourages inspection. Small fish flicker between shadows, hermit crabs reorganize borrowed shells, and fragments of life appear scattered rather than threatening. In this setting, danger rarely announces itself with size or speed. Instead, it hides in scale, in texture, and in the assumption that something small cannot impose meaningful harm. Among the loose stones and discarded shells moves the blue-ringed octopus, an animal so compact and visually delicate that it often reads as an ornament rather than a predator. Its body rarely exceeds the size of a golf ball, its arms fine and flexible, its skin capable of shifting color and texture to match the surrounding substrate with remarkable precision. At rest, it blends seamlessly into the environment, adopting muted tones, beige, sandy yellow, or pale brown, so effectively that even a trained eye can pass over it. It does not patrol territory in obvious ways, nor does it advertise its presence through movement. It waits, concealed within the visual noise of the tide pool, its camouflage not just a defense, but a strategy that places it within reach of anything that fails to recognize it. The transformation that gives this animal its name is not constant, and that is where misunderstanding begins. The electric blue rings, sharply defined and almost artificial in their brightness, are not a default appearance. They are a signal, an escalation. When the octopus is disturbed, compressed, or threatened, specialized cells in its skin rapidly contract and expand, revealing these iridescent rings in a pulsing display that stands in stark contrast to the otherwise muted environment. The effect is immediate and arresting, a flash of color that seems too vivid to belong to something so small. This is not aggression in the sense people often assume. It is not an invitation to engage, nor is it a prelude to a chase. It is a warning evolved to communicate one simple message: contact is a mistake. In natural interactions, many predators recognize and respect this signal. Reef fish that might otherwise attempt to mow the small cephalopod recoil at the sudden appearance of the rings. Crabs hesitate. Even animals that rely more on tactile exploration than vision can respond to the shift in movement and posture that accompanies the display. The octopus inflates slightly, raises its body, and repositions its arms in a way that amplifies the visual signal. It is a layered defense, color, posture, and timing working together to reduce the likelihood of physical conflict. The problem arises when the receiver of that signal does not understand it, or worse, interprets the stillness and small size as harmless. Human encounters with the blue-ringed octopus rarely begin with intent. They begin with curiosity. A hand turns over a shell. Fingers brush against what feels like a soft, living object. The octopus, compressed and startled, responds not with a prolonged struggle, but with a brief, efficient action. Its beak, small, sharp, and largely hidden beneath the body, makes contact. The bite itself is often so slight that it barely registers. There is no tearing, no dramatic puncture wound, no immediate surge of pain that would force attention. In many documented cases, the person involved continues the activity, unaware that anything significant has occurred. This is the touch trap in its purest form, a defensive act that is both minimal and sufficient, delivering a payload without announcing its presence. The substance delivered through that bite is tetrodotoxin, one of the most potent neurotoxins known in marine ecosystems. Unlike venoms that rely on enzymatic destruction of tissue or localized pain to deter predators, tetrodotoxin operates at the level of electrical signaling. It binds to sodium channels in nerve cells, effectively blocking the transmission of impulses that allow muscles to contract. The body does not bleed or swell dramatically at the site of the bite. Instead, it begins to lose communication internally. Muscles that normally respond to voluntary commands, those that control movement, posture, and eventually breathing, become unresponsive. The effect is systemic, precise, and, from the outside, disturbingly subtle in its early stages. What makes this interaction particularly dangerous is not just the potency of the toxin, but the way its effects unfold over time. There is often a delay between the bite and the onset of noticeable symptoms. Minutes can pass in which the individual feels largely normal, perhaps only a faint tingling at the site of contact, if anything at all. This window creates a false sense of safety. The environment continues to appear calm. The tide pool remains unchanged. There is no immediate feedback loop linking the action, touching a small octopus, to the consequences that are beginning to develop internally. Then, gradually, the body starts to fail in ways that are difficult to interpret in real time. The first signs are often sensory: numbness around the lips, a tingling that spreads from the point of contact. Muscles begin to feel weak, coordination falters, and simple actions require more effort. As the toxin continues to interfere with nerve signaling, paralysis progresses. The individual may remain fully conscious, aware of their surroundings and the changes occurring within their own body, but increasingly unable to respond. Speech can become slurred or impossible, not because the mind is impaired, but because the muscles required to form words no longer obey. The most critical transition occurs when the muscles responsible for breathing, the diaphragm and intercostal muscles, are affected. Breathing becomes shallow, irregular, and eventually insufficient. From an ecological perspective, this mechanism is not designed for human encounters. The blue-ringed octopus uses this toxin primarily to subdue prey such as small crabs and fish, animals that can be immobilized quickly once their muscles cease to function. In that context, the efficiency of tetrodotoxin is an advantage. It allows a small predator to overcome prey that might otherwise escape or cause injury. The same mechanism, scaled to a human body, creates a mismatch between perception and reality. There is no dramatic struggle, no visible escalation that signals the severity of the situation. The body simply stops responding, piece by piece, while consciousness can remain intact. This delay, the gap between cause and effect, is where the real danger consolidates. In many natural threats, feedback is immediate. A painful bite, a visible wound, a rapid change in the environment forces recognition and response. With the blue-ringed octopus, the absence of that immediate feedback undermines the instinct to act. By the time the seriousness of the situation becomes clear, the individual may already be physically incapable of initiating effective movement or seeking help without assistance. In ecological terms, it is a defense that minimizes conflict and maximizes survival for the octopus. In human terms, it is a scenario where the usual cues for danger fail to activate in time. The broader ecosystem reinforces this dynamic. Tide pools and shallow reefs are environments built on interaction. Organisms are densely packed, layered in close proximity, and often rely on camouflage or chemical defenses rather than size or speed. The blue-ringed octopus is not an anomaly in this respect. It is an extreme example of a common strategy. Many small marine animals invest in toxins, warning signals, or deceptive appearances because they cannot rely on physical dominance. The rings are part of a communication system shaped by evolutionary pressures, where being noticed at the right moment can prevent escalation, and being unnoticed at the wrong moment can lead to lethal contact. There is a quiet irony embedded in this system. The very features that make the blue-ringed octopus visually striking, the bright rings, the delicate movements, the compact form, also contribute to the misunderstanding that places it within reach of human hands. It does not behave like an overtly dangerous animal. It does not chase, it does not lunge, and it does not occupy space in a way that demands distance. Its defense is reactive, triggered by proximity and contact rather than pursuit. In that sense, it embodies a form of danger that is not about aggression, but about thresholds. Cross the threshold of touch and the system activates. Stay outside it, and the animal remains just another small component of a complex coastal mosaic. The final rule that emerges from this interaction is not dramatic, but it is precise. The deadliest touch in this environment does not feel like a weapon. It does not announce itself through pain or force, and it does not provide immediate evidence of its impact. It operates quietly, relying on misunderstanding, scale, and delay. In the world of the blue-ringed octopus, survival is not about overpowering threats, but about ensuring that those threats recognize the cost of contact before it is too late. For those who fail to read that signal, the consequence unfolds not in the moment of touch, but in the minutes that follow, as the body gradually loses its ability to respond to the simplest and most essential command: to breathe. In the warm, open margins of tropical seas, where reefs give way to deeper channels and coastal waters stretch into long corridors of blue, movement becomes the dominant language of survival. Light filters downward in shifting columns, broken by surface ripples and drifting plankton, while fish move in coordinated bursts that seem to dissolve and reform with each subtle change in current. It is an environment defined less by structure than by motion, where visibility extends in all directions, and threats are typically detected through contrast and speed. Within this fluid space, one of the most refined predators in the marine world moves with an almost indifferent grace, its presence registered only when it chooses to intersect with another organism. The sea snake occupies a unique position in this ecosystem, having transitioned fully from terrestrial ancestry into a life adapted almost entirely to the ocean. Its body is elongated and laterally compressed, ending in a paddle-like tail that allows efficient propulsion through water. Unlike their land relatives, these snakes possess lungs that extend along much of their body length, enabling prolonged dives, and some species can even absorb a portion of their oxygen directly through their skin. They surface infrequently, often with minimal disturbance, and spend the majority of their time moving through mid-water or along reef edges, hunting fish that rely on the same visual clarity that defines this environment. Despite their evolutionary specialization, sea snakes do not present themselves as overtly dangerous animals. Their movements are smooth and unhurried, their bodies often displaying striking patterns of black, white, or muted yellow that blend with the shifting light of the water column. They are not aggressive in the sense of actively pursuing large threats, and many species show a tendency to avoid confrontation when given the opportunity. This behavioral profile contributes to a perception that contact, if it occurs, is unlikely to be consequential. Yet, this assumption rests on a misunderstanding of how their venom system operates and, more importantly, how its effects unfold over time. When a sea snake does bite, the interaction is often brief and understated. The fangs are relatively small compared to many terrestrial venomous snakes, and the bite itself may not involve a dramatic strike or prolonged hold. In some cases, the snake makes contact, delivers a small amount of venom, and releases almost immediately. The physical sensation can be minimal, sometimes described as a slight prick or pressure, rather than a sharp, penetrating pain. There may be little visible damage at the site, no significant bleeding, and no immediate swelling that would draw attention. In the context of an active environment where minor cuts or abrasions are common, such a bite can easily be overlooked or dismissed. This subtlety is not a flaw in the system. It is an adaptation aligned with the snake's primary prey. Many sea snakes feed on small fish, animals that must be immobilized quickly to prevent escape, but do not require large, mechanically destructive bites. The venom, therefore, is optimized for efficiency at a biochemical level rather than through physical trauma. It is delivered in a way that minimizes struggle and maximizes the likelihood that the prey will succumb without damaging the snake or escaping into complex reef structures. When this same system is applied to a human body, the mismatch between perception and consequence becomes the central problem. The venom of many sea snakes contains potent neurotoxins and myotoxins, substances that interfere with the normal function of nerves and muscle tissue. Rather than causing immediate, localized destruction, these toxins enter the bloodstream and begin to interact with the body's internal systems. In simple terms, they disrupt communication. Nerves that send signals to muscles become less effective, and muscle cells themselves can begin to break down under the influence of the toxin. This process does not announce itself loudly at first. It unfolds quietly, often without the dramatic cues that typically signal danger. In the minutes following a bite, an individual may continue their activity with little change in perception. Swimming continues, equipment is adjusted, and the environment remains as it was, clear, open, and seemingly benign. This is the false calm, a period in which the absence of immediate symptoms reinforces the assumption that nothing significant has occurred. From a behavioral standpoint, this is one of the most dangerous phases because it delays recognition and response. The body, however, has already begun to change. The first noticeable effects often emerge as subtle alterations in muscle function. There may be a sense of heaviness in the limbs, a slight difficulty in maintaining precise movements, or an unusual fatigue that seems disproportionate to the level of activity. These changes can be easily misattributed to exertion, dehydration, or the natural variability of physical performance in water. At the same time, the toxins are continuing to circulate, interacting with muscle tissue at a cellular level. Myotoxins begin to disrupt the integrity of muscle fibers, leading to their gradual breakdown. This process releases intracellular components into the bloodstream, further complicating the body's internal balance. As this breakdown progresses, weakness becomes more pronounced. Movements that were once automatic require conscious effort, and coordination begins to falter. In water, where stability depends on continuous balanced muscle activity, this loss of control has immediate consequences. Kicking becomes less effective, arm strokes lose power, and the ability to maintain position relative to the surface or a vessel diminishes. The individual may attempt to compensate, increasing effort in an attempt to overcome the perceived fatigue, but this often accelerates the underlying physiological stress. Simultaneously, neurotoxic components of the venom begin to interfere more directly with the transmission of signals between nerves and muscles. The body's command system, its ability to translate intention into action, becomes unreliable. Muscles may fail to contract when needed or respond more slowly than expected. This is not a loss of consciousness or awareness. The mind remains clear, able to perceive the environment and recognize the growing difficulty. It is the execution that fails. The gap between intention and action widens, creating a sense of disconnection that is both disorienting and increasingly dangerous. The timeline of these changes can vary depending on the species involved, the amount of venom delivered, and the physical condition of the individual, but the overall pattern remains consistent. What begins as a negligible event, a small, often painless bite, transitions into a systemic challenge that escalates over time. Muscles continue to weaken, and in severe cases, paralysis can develop, particularly affecting the muscles responsible for breathing. The diaphragm and intercostal muscles, which drive the mechanical process of ventilation, may no longer respond effectively to neural signals. Breathing becomes shallow, labored, and eventually insufficient. In the context of open water, these internal failures intersect with external demands in a way that amplifies risk. The individual must maintain buoyancy, orient themselves relative to the surface, and, in many cases, navigate towards safety or assistance. Each of these tasks depends on coordinated muscle activity and reliable nerve function. As these systems degrade, the margin for error narrows. Small disturbances, waves, currents, or the simple act of turning the body become disproportionately difficult to manage. The environment, which initially appeared stable and manageable, reveals itself as an active force that requires constant engagement. There is a quiet irony in how this interaction unfolds. The sea snake, an animal that often avoids confrontation and delivers a bite that may go unnoticed, creates a scenario where the most dangerous phase occurs not at the moment of contact, but in the period that follows. The absence of immediate, overwhelming symptoms delays recognition, allowing the individual to remain in a vulnerable environment while their capacity to cope with it diminishes. It is a strategy that, in its natural context, ensures the snake's prey does not escape. In human encounters, it creates a temporal disconnect between cause and effect that can be difficult to navigate without prior knowledge. From an ecological perspective, sea snakes are highly successful predators, occupying niches that require both efficiency and adaptability. Their ability to remain submerged for extended periods, their sensitivity to chemical and mechanical cues in the water, and their streamlined bodies all contribute to a hunting strategy that is both subtle and effective. They do not rely on overwhelming force or dramatic displays. Instead, they operate within the flow of the environment, intersecting with prey in moments that are brief and decisive. Their venom is an extension of this approach, a tool that ensures that once contact is made, the outcome is determined not by prolonged struggle, but by the inevitable progression of internal disruption. The lesson that emerges from this system is not about confrontation or avoidance in the immediate sense, but about understanding the nature of delayed consequences. In many natural hazards, the relationship between action and outcome is immediate and visible. With sea snakes, the relationship is stretched across time. The initial event is quiet, almost inconsequential in appearance, while the true impact develops gradually, often out of sync with expectation. Recognizing this pattern is critical because it shifts the focus from the moment of contact to the period that follows. In the end, the defining characteristic of this interaction is not the bite itself, but the delay that follows it. The danger is not announced through immediate collapse or dramatic injury, but through a slow erosion of the body's ability to function within its environment. The most critical decisions are made in a window where the threat is not yet fully visible, where the body still appears capable, and where the instinct to continue as before is strongest. It is in this space, between contact and consequence, that the outcome is shaped. The sea, in its clarity and openness, offers few visual warnings of this kind of threat. The water remains beautiful, the movement of life continues uninterrupted, and the surface reflects the same patterns of light as before. Beneath that continuity, however, a process may already be underway, one that transforms a minor, almost unnoticeable touch into a progressive failure of the systems that sustain life. The final understanding is precise and unforgiving. With sea snakes, the danger is not the moment you feel, but the time you lose before you realize what has already begun.